Next up, we have Regan Yan, CEO of Digital Alchemy. Regan founded Digital Alchemy in 2003 as Australia's first dedicated database marketing services provider. Under his leadership, Digital Alchemy has grown to become Australia's largest producer of outsourced database marketing solutions and is the largest Unica implementer in Asia Pacific. Prior to this, Regan was the CEO of Persona Asia, an intermediary aimed at delivering permission-based marketing solutions to online clients. Earlier in his career, Regan was the managing director of Multinet, a leading company in data mining and sophisticated database marketing. Prior to joining Multinet, Regan was responsible for customer analytics and customer profitability, as well as the introduction of analytical marketing at Westpac. With over 20 years of experience in strategic and data-driven marketing areas, Regan is recognized as a recognized subject matter expert in the area of analytical database marketing and customer relationship marketing, speaking regularly at Australasian and international events. We're delighted to have Regan back in New Zealand to speak to us today. Please join me in welcoming Regan to the stage.
Thank you and good morning. For those of you who are wondering, I started work when I was 15. And that's not me. I just realized. So I wanted to talk to you today about something that is very near and dear to me. So if you've heard me, speak before, you'll realize that, that when I speak and when I talk, I like to give you something to think about. So there's a few things at the end of this presentation, but really my job here is not to tell you about what people are doing or not to talk to you about what we're doing and how great we are or any stuff like that. My job here is to change your mind. My job here is when you leave at the end of my session, I want you to have a slightly different way of thinking about things. And if I've done that, then I've done my job. So what I'm going to talk to you today about is decisions. And decisions, because decisions in my mind are at the heart of everything. Whether you're running a business, whether you're marketing to your customers, life moves forward based on the decisions that you make every day. And so I want you to think about when you're talking to your customers, when you're making decisions about what your customers receive, think about the decision, right, and how you get there. So the first point that I want to make to you is that your customers don't exist to meet your objectives. Now, I know that sounds controversial, but I sit, on a number of boards of a number of companies as well. And I sit with a lot of customers. And when I sit in meetings and I listen to people talking about what they're going to market, how they're going to market, and how they're going to design that process to their customers, what I hear a lot about is how that works in their organization and what the customer will have to do to redeem that product, to buy that product, to get that offer. And why a customer would want to do that. And for most of the conversation that I sit through when I hear that, it's mostly about their organization. This is what the customer will need to do in order to achieve this, and this is how we can facilitate that in our organization. And this is why it's good for us. This is why it's good for our organization. We build campaigns because we need sales. We build campaigns because we need to flog more product. We don't build campaigns because we want to serve a customer's needs. Right? So customers aren't here to meet your objectives. You're here to meet their objectives. Your job is to meet their needs. Your job is to think about, how could I serve a customer today, and what do I have in my kit bag of products and services that might be useful to them today? And 99% of the time when you ask that question, when you look at a customer's data, 99% of the time the answer will be nothing, shut up. But that 1% of times when you look at their data and there's something that matches what you have and what they need and you talk to them, that's when you'll create a connection with your customer. But every time you talk to a customer when they don't want to hear from you, or you talk to them about something that's not relevant to you, your relationship with that customer breaks down ever so slightly. And every time you do it, it breaks down again and again and again. The second thing I want to talk to you about is decisions. Decisions determine success. Really? So, here is a battle plan. This is actually one of Napoleon's battle plans. And so, if you think about it, when you go to war, and really, business is war. You've got competitors, that are trying to eat you. You've got Google trying to eat you. You've got people who you don't even know about trying to eat you. Everybody's trying to eat you, right? So business is war, and you need to have a plan, right? Napoleon had a plan. Napoleon was an amazing strategist. That's why he was able to walk through most of Europe so quickly, because he was an amazing battle planner. But the thing is, the Napoleonic army wasn't just successful because of Napoleon's strategic ability. The Napoleonic army was successful because it was able to get all of these decisions. It was a very well-trained army that was able to make very quick decisions on the fly in the fight of battle. And that's where battles are won. Battles aren't actually just won in strategy. And we could all put together an amazing strategy. I've seen some amazing strategies. I've seen very few amazing executions, right? But this is where Napoleon won, because every soldier in his army, every commander in his army, every lieutenant in his army was making decisions. As they're fighting, they're making decisions about where to go, what to do, and how to attack. And that's what you have to do. So if you've got a marketing strategy that says these are the 5 things that we're going to do, these are the 5 campaigns that we're going to do this month, and we're going to carpet bomb our customers with all of these things for the next quarter, that's not what Napoleon did. Right? Napoleon had an army that made small decisions at every interaction, at every fight, at every little battle, and that's why he won. And that's what you've got to do. At every interaction with your customer, you've got to make a decision. What should I do next? And you've got to be able to do that in real time, just as they do here in battle, right? So, you can't make decisions about, I'm going to do this to this customer. I'm going to send this communication to this customer next month. I'm going to send this communication to this customer next week. You've got to start to make decisions about what I'm going to talk to that customer about right now. And as I said before, many times you'll ask the question, and the decision will be, say nothing. Don't be afraid to have a decision, say nothing. It's okay. As my father once told me when I was a little boy, I talked a lot, right? And my dad once said to me, he said, son, sometimes it's better to be quiet and be thought a fool than open your mouth and remove all possible doubt. The third point here is that profiles don't drive propensity. Now, 10 years ago, we talked a lot about segmentation. These are my customer segments. These are the customers I'm going to target. I'm going to target this segment with this product over this time frame. I'm going to build a life cycle around that. Then we started to break segments down into profiles. I'm going to target, a slightly more granular group of customers. But profiles don't drive the propensity to purchase. They don't drive behavior. It's just a homogeneous, convenient way to describe a customer. So this is me. I'm 48 years old. I've got 3 kids. I live in a middle-income suburb in Sydney. I spend about $140 a week on groceries. That's not because I'm trying to starve my children. It's because I use HelloFresh in Australia. I'm interested in cars, skiing, and scuba diving. That's my profile. This is me in North Korea. I went to North Korea a couple of weeks ago. But I also look very much like this guy. He's the same age as me. He's got 3 kids. Probably doesn't live with his. Lives in a middle-income suburb called Sydney. Probably spends the same amount of money in a grocery store, though it's mostly on alcohol. He's interested in tennis because he's got a tennis racket in his cart. He's interested in cars, probably doesn't own one. And he used to be interested in scuba diving. He probably doesn't do that anymore either. My point is that if you just looked at the data, these two people have a very similar profile. But when you look at them in the harsh, light of day, they look very, very different. And all of your customers, through all of those profiles and segments that you've got, show these differences. And you're targeting them with the same thing at the same time with the same proposition. Why? Because on the surface, on a set of basic demographics and spend patterns, they look roughly the same. But their purchasing patterns, their purchasing requirements, the point of time in which they want to purchase that is completely different. And that's why when you look at targeting by segment and you look at, the performance of campaigns based segment versus segment, you get very marginal differences. You get a 10, 20% lift. But if you can get to real-time decisioning, if you can get to making decisions about what customers are doing right here, right now, you get a 3 or 4 times lift. We did some stuff for one of our retail customers where, we changed the recommendations that we had for them based on things that they were purchasing in real time, and we lifted the performance of their email communication by 3 to 4 times. We more than doubled the revenue by removing the segmentation and going down to the customer saying, what are you actually buying? What are you actually doing? And you know what? So this is, I can tell you who it is because it's a public case study, but it's actually IKEA, right? I love IKEA, right? But you know what my recommendations came up as? Plastic containers. Little plastic, little white plastic containers with a red lid? I love those things, right? And they were on sale, right? And that's what honest to God, that's what my recommendation came up as. It didn't come up as a sofa. It didn't come up as bedding or any other. It came up as a little white containers with a red lid because they were 30% off. I went to IKEA and I spent $600 for a $1.98 container that they sent me, right? But they met my needs, right? They met my needs because they understood what I wanted to buy, and they told me when it was the right time to buy it. So, likely to purchase. So, I have a propensity model. I think that somebody is likely to purchase something. But that's not the same as somebody who wants to purchase it. I'm likely to purchase a new car at some point. Right? I'm likely to go on holiday at some point. It's actually not that important to know what I'm likely to do because I'm likely to do everything. What's important is what I want to do. And what's more important is when I want to do it. Because if you can have a conversation with me when I want to do something, then that's far more important. So don't spend all of your time trying to figure out who's likely to do something. Figure out who in your customer base wants to do something. And figure out how do you work out what they want to do. And then how do you work out whether I have something that meets that need. So this is an example of what happens when you market to people based on what they're likely to do. You discount. Why do you have to discount when you only have a probability that somebody's going to do something? The reason you discount is because they're not quite there. They might be 3 months out, they might be 6 months out, they might be a month out. And so you need to use an incentive to drag them into the market. How many times have you bought stuff that you don't really want? Because it's cheap, right? That discount dragged you into the market, right? And that's what you have to do if you don't know who you're talking to or you're using a very broad measure of your targeting, right? You need these heavy, heavy discounts. This is e-commerce is layered with heavy discounts, right? Because they're just dragging people into the market. If I wanted to do something, and this is you can't actually read this, but I'll read it to you. But if I can figure out that you want to do something or you need to do something, here's an example from, actually I just got this off Google to be honest, from AT&T. And what they said is, we've noticed that you're continuing to enjoy tethering feature on your smartphone, and you need to know that actually to use tethering a lot, you need this new plan, so we're going to go ahead and upgrade you. There's no discount. There's no offer, but they've identified that you're doing something, i.e. you're tethering, that you're tethering, and we've got something that solves that problem for you. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to provide that to you. No discount. That's a service, right? That's marketing that is so good, it feels like a service. That builds relationship, right? And telcos are getting really good at this stuff now. You know, telcos used to make a heap of money off people who went over their data plan, right? And has anybody here got a 1,000 plus data bill? It's a horrible experience, right? But telcos make buckets of money on it, right? But they've just figured out in the last couple of years that it's a really, really horrible experience and they shouldn't do it, right? And so now they've started to talk to people, you know, in similar fashions to this, where when you start to reach your data plan, they start to tell you, and then they start to upgrade you, etc., right? That's marketing to somebody because they have a need, and it doesn't require any of this. It doesn't require any of these discounts. A lot of the marketing that we do for our customers now is like this. It's all service-based marketing, right? It's all looking at what need do you have, what products do we have in our suite that are appropriate for you right now. Oops, sorry. How do I go back? The fifth one, and the last one, is if you're exploiting your customers and you're treating your customers like a media asset, right? So I sit in a lot of meetings and customers say, we've got 2 million members, we've got 1 million members, we've got 500,000 members, and they go out and they sell that. So they go out and they sell the opportunity to talk to their customers through an email, through, you know, some other communication, and they sell it at a CPM, they sell it at an impression, they sell it at, you know, at a click-through, they sell it on an acquisition basis. And they basically just layer their customers with all of these offers because they get paid for it. In doing that, they have all these conversations with their customers that the customers really have no interest in. Because their focus isn't on what's relevant to the customer, their focus is on what offer can I sell? Who will pay me to put something in a communication to my customers to drive revenue? Right, that's their whole focus. It's you know, I've got a customer base, I need to monetize it. I love this term. I love the term monetizing. We need to monetize our customer base. What that really means is I need to sell the crap out of it so I can justify it. Right? I need to monetize my base. So I'm going to go and I'm going to sell it, and I don't, you know, I'm going to spend some time, you know, putting some rules in place. But you know what? If I really need the revenue, I'm going to ignore all of those rules, and I'm just going to layer cake my my customer base with as many offers as I can find. This is a small company. It's now a small company. It used to be a big company called Groupon. And I love using Groupon examples. So if you've heard me present, you may have seen it before. But this is the most recent Groupon stock price. It's now at about $5. It used to be at $30. But what Groupon does is Groupon has this massive database, and it just layer cakes the whole database with offers. It has, you know, so if you sign up to Groupon and you say, I'm interested, you know, I'm a 45-year-old male who's interested in sport and travel, they will send you cafe offers, bikini wax offers, anything. They don't care. Why? Because all they're thinking about is their own commercialization of that email address. They just think about how many times can I contact that customer? How many slots can I sell, you know, on that email? I don't really care who it is. And I'll sell it to, guess what? The highest bidder. And this is what has happened to Groupon as a result of that. Nobody opens their emails anymore, you know, and they just can't recover. right? And so, if you've got a loyalty program, if you've got a customer base, I understand sometimes there is a need to monetize some of that data, but be very, very careful. Right? Because once you lose the trust of your customers, once you start sending customers bikini waxes when they're 45-year-old men, you will lose them forever. Customers don't come back. Once they relegate you to spam, once they stop opening your emails, they don't come back. Right? One of the biggest challenges that e-commerce organizations, customers have right now is reactivation. Huge customer bases, most of which are inactive, right? And the activation rates, I went to a meeting yesterday, and their reactivation rate, right, when they market I think they were marketing a $40 voucher. Their reactivation rate was 0.07%. It's really, really difficult to reactivate a customer, and this is the problem for Groupon. They're dead. I had a meeting a while back with the CMO of one of the largest telcos in Thailand, and he said to me, I can't understand why we don't get any response out of our retention messages. Now, they only have one channel because they only had an SMS channel. He said, I can't understand it. We put great retention messages in the market and we get no response. And I said, well, I suspect that it has something to do with the fact that your customers receive somewhere between 3 and 5 SMSs from your organization every day. Why? Because they had monetized their base to the point where they had product managers and partner managers and affiliate managers selling access to their customer base, selling SMS access to their customer base to anybody that would pay for it. And so when they went to say something to their customer that was relevant to their own business, customers had already turned off. Right? It's like, if I sit here and I spoke to you about basket weaving for an hour, how many of you will still be here? Not very many. Right? Hopefully, the fact that you're still here means that I'm relevant. Right? But you've got to think about that with your customer as well. You have a finite number of times that you can have a conversation with your customer before they turn off to you completely. And when they do, they ain't coming back. So think about it very, very carefully. Stop thinking about your customers as a media asset. Stop thinking about your customers as them existing so that you can meet your sales objectives, because they do not. Right? Fundamentally, customers do not exist to meet your needs. You exist to meet theirs. Now, I know that that's a really big change for a lot of us. And commercially, I sit in meetings with people, and I say to them, have you actually thought about what that means to your customer? And they go, oops. So we're so caught up in our own commercial view of the world, we very easily forget that there's a customer at the end of everything that we do. And I think that's where, I think in some ways that's where startups have a distinct advantage. So actually, if you look through the world at the most customer-focused organizations, the ones that provide an amazing experience, they're all startups. Do you know why they're all startups? Because they're built. They're built from the customer backwards. They're built from an idea, just as Neighborly was, about what does a great customer experience look like? And they build their processes, their staff, their systems, everything. Everything sits from what does a great customer experience look like. I'm at the moment, I'm involved in rebuilding a loyalty program in Thailand. So this loyalty program was actually started 3 or 4 years ago, I think. And it was designed from a whole bunch of commercial arrangements that they put together, and it was a really good idea. And they put it together. You could earn points here, there, and everywhere, and you could redeem them in a bunch of places. But they never really thought about the customer experience, right? So, for example, if I wanted to redeem for a voucher, I had enough points to redeem for a voucher, and if I wanted to redeem that voucher, I had to go to the website, print an email. Then I had to take that email to a train station, go to the service center in the train station, hand over my email, and by the way, there was only one train station that you could do this in, out of 30 odd train stations that they had. I had to go to one train station, hand that over at the service center, and they would give me a voucher, and then I could go and take that voucher over to the ticket counter and get my 100 baht. I had to do 3 or 4 different things just to get $4, right? And that's because all three, there's a whole bunch of different parties involved in that process. They hadn't thought through that process at all. As a result, nobody engaged in the program, nobody redeemed anything, and the whole program was a failure. And so when we went back to redesign it, we started with, what does a good customer experience look like? What do we want customers to feel as they interact with this program? And we built it around a few very simple propositions. It hasn't launched yet, so I can't tell you, how much difference that's made. But actually just going through the process of unpicking, the rubbish that had been put together, and the journeys that they were forcing customers to go through in order to do very simple things was a really enlightening experience. And I encourage you, when you go back to your place of work tomorrow, is to sit down and look at just one thing that you're asking a customer to do. Right? Just look at one thing that you're, whether it's a redemption, whether it's purchasing something, whether it's an upgrade. Just look at the process and think about, is there an easier way to get a customer through this process? Am I forcing a customer to do it my way? Or is my organization trying to facilitate something for a customer easily? Because that's where startups win. That's exactly where startups win. So, the next time you're designing a campaign, I want you to think about 2 things. 1, what problem am I trying to solve for my customer? Does my customer have a problem? Is it a bill shock? Is it a data usage? Is it a savings plan? What problem is my customer trying to solve? And how do I identify that that's their problem right now? Because if you're not trying to solve a problem, what are you talking to the customer about? But if you talk to a customer about a problem that they're trying to solve right now, then you've got a much better chance of them taking notice of you. It's why retargeting works, by the way. There's a whole conversation that we could have about retargeting, but one of the reasons retargeting works is because it's able to talk to customers when you know that they have a problem to solve because they've already told you. They've already tried to buy something, they've already looked at it. That's your indication that they've got a problem to solve. But many of your organizations, just like T-Mobile had 11 million people coming to their website, telling them that they've got a problem to solve, looking at plans, looking at phones, looking at options. 11 million people a day? Was it 11 million people a week or something or other? A vast number of people coming to their website, telling them that they've got a problem, and T-Mobile ignoring them. And if you go back to your organization, I'll bet you that your customers are telling you that they've got problems, and you're ignoring them and saying, oh, I hear that you've got a problem with your plan. Now have a look at this phone. Right? And so, try to look at it from a customer's point of view. Try to think about your customer data as an insight into what problem is your customer trying to solve. And the second thing is, what am I trying to get done as a customer? So, what work is your customer trying to get done? What are they trying to achieve? What are they trying to do? Are they trying to buy a house? Are they trying to save for a car? Are they trying to, reduce costs? What work are they trying to do? And if you can understand what they're trying to achieve through the data that you've got from them, then you can facilitate that process for them. And if you can facilitate or help facilitate that process for them, then you've got marketing that looks so good, it feels like a service. So, take all of the data from me that you want. I will give you every single piece of data you ever ask for on one condition. That you use that data to make decisions to solve those two questions.